Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Jag Mangit for Jaggy Sports, and a really stupid rumor happened. LeBron James will not get traded. He will not get traded. I don't know who the hell did this, but let's take a look.
Lakers. Things have not been going so well in Lakerland. 3-game losing streak right now, and that's fueled a lot of speculation about what the Lakers might do on the trade market. We did get some clarification. I've seen a lot of rumbling out there on social media calling for the Lakers to potentially trade LeBron James, both from Lakers fans and a lot of non-Lakers fans suggesting this. But Rich Paul recently according to Shams Charania, put a stop to this, telling Shams that the Lakers are not trading Rich Paul, that LeBron is not going anywhere. Ron Gutterman from LakersNation.com joining me. Ron, is this any surprise, Rich Paul putting a stop to this rumor already?
No, I mean the rumors circulated from some random tweet from a weird source saying that, LeBron was enamored with the young talent in Cleveland and, going back there would be a dream. It was weird from the start, and I'm glad that it was kind of snuffed out pretty quickly. The Lakers would never trade LeBron James. LeBron James is not one to request a trade away from a team. That's not really his MO. Like, he's the type of guy that stays with the team and figures it out until there's no other option, and then he waits for free agency and leaves. That's what he's been doing his whole career. That's who he is. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that the rumor started on Twitter, and now it had to be addressed.
I think it's in part fans of other teams are saying the Lakers should trade LeBron as more of like a way to take a shot at the Lakers. Like they're so bad that LeBron should go somewhere else if he wants to actually win. I think it's fans of other teams kind of piling on the Lakers. But nevertheless, again, Shams Charania on the Pat McAfee show did say he had just talked to Rich Paul, and Rich Paul confirmed LeBron going nowhere. However, that doesn't mean that the Lakers aren't making a trade. In fact, Shams mentioned that the Lakers have been very active on the trade market. Not a surprise, they always are active on the trade market, but they may be especially motivated this year now that they're sitting at 500. Obviously, the team has disappointed based on what they've produced. Rund, is there a trade out there in the Lakers' future?
I would have to assume that something's going to be discussed. Obviously, Taylor Horton Tucker is the basically the player that would get traded. There's really no other like legitimate trade piece out there, but Taylor Horton Tucker cannot be traded until January 15th. So any Lakers fans expecting some type of move in the next 3.5 weeks, that's not happening. There will be like, unless magically the 76ers turn their mindset around on Russell Westbrook and there's a Westbrook for Ben Simmons deal
Mm-hmm.
to be had, the Lakers are not making a trade before January 15th.
That was one of the trades that Shams mentioned, or one of the targets that they would love to get Ben Simmons. And obviously, you would probably have to do something involving Russell Westbrook. The 76ers, from what we've heard, are not interested in Russell Westbrook. Daryl Morey has already lived that life and isn't interested in going back to that. So then you're talking about a 3-team trade, Russ to Team X, that team sending stuff to Philadelphia, and then Philadelphia sending Ben Simmons to LA. He's a Clutch Sports client, so you can't completely write it off, but I feel like that's pretty far-fetched, pretty unlikely to happen because of all those circumstances and Westbrook's salary being difficult to trade. I don't think that's where this is going to head. But interesting that the Lakers are still poking around, seeing if they can get in on the Ben Simmons trade talks. But the other name that was mentioned that I think is far more realistic, Jerami Grant with the Detroit Pistons. And that's a name that's been circling around the Lakers for a while. And I think he'd be a great fit for what the Lakers need right now.
Yeah, and he's out for at least the next like 4 or so weeks with a torn ligament in his thumb. But again, the Lakers couldn't make that trade until January 15th anyway, so that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant is kind of that guy where if you're looking at the NBA landscape of who is available to be traded, there's really no one who's a better fit than Jeremy Grant in terms of a lengthy wing who can defend multiple positions. He can score off the dribble. He can score as a catch and shoot guy. Like, he's kind of that do it all utility man that the Lakers are missing. And they sort of have it in Trevor Ariza. But at Trevor Ariza's age, with his injury history, all that stuff, you wonder how sustainable he is as that option. And if you get Jeremy Grant, you say, great, we have everything Trevor Ariza was supposed to bring, but like 10 times better and more sustainable. And now we have Trevor Ariza as a backup option too. He can come off the bench. So it's like that's kind of giving you everything you need. Yeah, that would be the number one target if it's me. If most Lakers fans are talking, Jerami Grant's probably the number one option here.
Yeah, and I think you brought up Trevor Ariza and seeing what he's done already. In only 2 games back, not that he's completely turned everything around. Obviously, they've lost games, but there's been moments where he's been out on the floor where you've just went, yep, that's what they've been missing. He did something, he made a rotation out, his length bothered a shot, something like that, where you went, yep, they've been missing that wing player. They've had too many instances where they've been playing a big and 4 guards because that's what they've got healthy, or 3 players and their point guard, shooting guard, and small forward are all really undersized guards. And that has become a problem where if you get a lineup featuring eventually like AD, LeBron, Trevor Ariza, then if you were to add Jerami Grant to the mix, that's a big switchy lineup that can still stretch teams out, that can give Frank Vogel the kind of defense he wants because you've got that kind of length out there on the floor. To me, he is the top of the list in terms of realistic targets. Ben Simmons, I'm not including in that list of realistic targets right now. It just feels too far-fetched. But Jerami Grant, as a realistic target, I think would be a great fit for the Lakers, and they would have a tough time saying no to a deal involving him. I do want to throw this in, though. Rumors have been circulating that any team trading for Jerami Grant has to know that he's probably going to be looking for a new deal this offseason, and it would be somewhere shy of a max deal is what he's looking for. So if you're trading for him, it's with the assumption that you're also going to give him that next contract, kind of like when we talked Kyle Lowry trades last year. The assumption was if you trade for Kyle Lowry, you have to be willing to give him that next contract starting at about $25 million per season. That was the word back then. Does that change your opinion at all, given that the Lakers already have so much money locked up in AD, Russell Westbrook, and LeBron James?
Look, Jerami Grant's 27. He's turning 28 in March. He's in his prime. This is what you have with Jerami Grant. He's a very good basketball player. Obviously, he's not, some perennial all-star, all NBA level player, but he's a very, very good piece to have. We saw what he did for the Denver Nuggets when he was there. Obviously, the Pistons are a different situation. They're built around him, which that's not really what he does. But when he was with Denver, he was so crucial for their playoff success those couple of years that he was there. So you have to be willing to extend a guy like that. And even though you have all this money tied up, this is one of those things you can always make another deal. There's always another deal to be made. If Jerami Grant, you sign him and he's not panning out, you can trade him again. Russell Westbrook will have 1 year left on his deal after this year. So 1 year left makes it a little easier to trade him. Or that money clears in after 2 seasons. So, that's one of those things where you get the guy that fits your team now. You pay him money if you need to, and then you figure the rest out later.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? If you extend Jerami Grant, how likely is that to become a negative value where if you decide, this contract this isn't working out, I don't think that's very likely to then become a deal that you just can't move, right? He's a 6'8" wing who right now is averaging 20 points per game. He's not shooting that well, but again, that's on a bad Pistons team. He's shooting 41% from the field, 33% from 3. I think he is a bit better than that. You go back to his time in Denver where he wasn't expected to generate all of the offense. He shot 47% from the field and 39% from 3. So to me, that suggests that on a team where he's getting more open looks, which he would if he was on the Lakers, those shooting percentages are going to go up. His scoring overall would probably come down, but you're going to have a very efficient player that I think teams would be interested in, even if, for whatever reason, you decide this isn't working out anymore and we're going to move Jerami Grant. I think your risk in it when you extend him is fairly minimal because teams are always going to want a 6'8" wing who can defend and can do some things for you on the offensive end of the floor. So again, he's top of my list, Ron. If they can figure out a way to get that done, I'd have a tough time saying no. If it's THT, Kendrick Nunn, you got to throw in some other stuff. The Lakers may be in a spot right now where that's their best case scenario on the trade market is getting a deal like that to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's kind of the go get it and fix a lot of the issues you're currently faced with. Like he does, we made jokes and people who are against the Lakers made jokes like, "Oh, you're waiting for Trevor Ariza to solve all your problems." Well, no, Jeremy Grant would actually like solve a lot of
Mhm.
problems. That would be the fix. So that's kind of where the focus should be, and it seems like, according to the Shams report, that that's where the focus might already be.
Trevor Ariza doesn't solve the Lakers' problems, but that skill set was something the Lakers are very much lacked. I think they still need more of it, and Jeremy Grant would give you even more of that skill set. So we'll see if the Lakers find a way to get it done. The one thing I think the main takeaway, the one certain that we can take away from this is that the Lakers are going to leave no stone unturned. They're going to do everything they can to find a deal out there on the trade market. Rob Pelinka, obviously, it's in a tough spot, doesn't have a lot of movable pieces, but you know the Lakers are going to try to get something done. Lakers Nation, give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Ben Simmons, Jeremy Grant, what are your thoughts on trading for one of those guys? And LeBron James staying in town.
So there you have it. I don't know how the hell they're making this stuff up. Obviously the Lakers are having internal discussions on trade. I think that my buddy's telling me that Anthony Davis might get traded because he keeps getting injured. Maybe they might land Miles Turner. We don't know. Um, it's kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens. But they might trade Russell Westbrook. If that's the case, I'd be so happy because ever since he came in on as a Laker, it's been just terrible. Um, but one thing is I know for sure, and I don't know who did this, but um, LeBron James will not get traded. I can guarantee he will not get traded. If he does get traded, that would be a landslide of a picks, assets, and everything you want kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I know like it's just common sense. Like common sense that the Lakers will never ever trade LeBron James. LeBron James delivered the title to them 2 years ago, and why would they trade him? Because the Lakers love their stars. Look what they did in the offseason. They traded three good role players, bench players, for one guy who did well about 5 years ago. But, Lakers love their stars. Um, they have a lot of stuff to do, think about trades to make happen because they actually suck. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do not make the playoffs. So, just telling you. Jag Maggot, Jaggy Sports. There you go.